Amazing. Welcome, welcome to Grip's next webinar, which is all about connections over content. Now, I'm not going to do that annoying thing of sit here and we're going to go, oh, let's wait 2 more minutes for people to join. No, I'm not going to penalize you for being on time and wanting to get into our webinar. I love all you people who are in early. That's me. I turn up at airports 4 hours earlier than I should do. I don't know why. There's nowhere to sit, but I just do not want to be late. And so I appreciate everyone who is on this webinar right now. I also appreciate our amazing webinar panelists. I'm going to get to them very, very shortly. But first, I just want to reiterate our value proposition of this webinar. We are going to be talking about connections over content, how event organizers are adding meetings to their events. And we're not just talking pre-scheduled meetings, we're talking about free flow, which is what we talk about at Grip. So, participant arranged meetings. We're talking about serendipitous meetings. We're talking about any ways that you can get your participants, your attendees, your sponsors, your exhibitors to connect with each other at your in-person event. Right, so let's get into it. First thing I want to do before I introduce our amazing panelists is to thank everyone on this webinar who's joined, because a lot of you provided questions. I have those questions written down. We're going to go through them. So thank you for being part of this webinar wherever you are in the world. Also, thank you to our amazing panelists. Right, let's get into it. We have got Ruben, founder of Lively. I'm not going to talk all about you, Ruben. I'm going to leave that up to you. So please tell us a bit about you and what you're up to at the moment.
Yes, thanks. We are an event tech agency. I founded Lively now 6 years ago, and we are based in the Netherlands with a team of eight specialists, and we work with SaaS solutions for B2B events. And yeah, we call ourselves a multi-tool expert and implementation agency. So we work with various platforms, and we help event organizers getting the most out of their event tech.
Thank you very much, Ruben. And did you like how I didn't pronounce your surname? Excellent. I got away with that. And I think the key thing to say about you, Ruben, is you're kind of underselling yourself. You're involved in so many different events over the years, and you can see what works and what doesn't work, particularly when it comes to connections over content. And that's why you're here. Fantastic. Over to Richard. Thank you for joining. Can you tell us a bit about you and your background, please?
Are you going to have a go at pronouncing my surname?
Oh, I don't. Oh, is it? Oh, is it? Oh no, I can't do it. No, sorry.
It is tough. Hi, I'm Richard. Great to be on the show. My company is Worldwide Events, which we founded 20 years ago. Very much with the mission of moving on the trade show experience. At the time, it was dominated by big exhibitions. We used to attend big exhibitions ourselves as a hotel company and found them not to give a great experience or value back to people. So we set about trying to do other events. They're small buyer meets supplier events specializing in the travel industry. We now run about 18 of these a year, and we really focus, and always have done from the beginning, on meetings, connections between the buyers and suppliers. So that's our number one mission. And we have put together almost 1 million one-to-one meetings now between buyers and suppliers, do about 20 events a year.
Wow, 1 million. If I had some emoji reaction things going on in Zoom, I'd be hitting them right now. It's incredible. Right, we are going to get into that, and I'm going to find out how you've delivered those meetings. And Ruben, I'm going to talk to you about networking roulette using AI. Amazing. Get ready for that one. But before I do, I've just put a few slides together because I always think it's quite nice to start a webinar with a bit of direction. So let's have a chat about that. Right, first of all, we believe that the world of events is changing. Things are different than before. So what is before? Well, I reckon this different era has changed into this kind of relationship-centric era. So pre-2000, we were very much in the product-centric. So you go to a trade show, there will be lots of products on display from various exhibitors, and you would look and you'd feel and you'd touch, you'd talk to people on the stand. It'd be great. Then the event organizers thought, well, we've got to start adding some content to this. And obviously this has been a thing for a while, but really you saw it being lent into in the 2000s to 2010s. where we're in this content-centric era. You know, you go to a large conference that was about, I don't know, homewares, and Bill Clinton would be speaking. They pay Bill Clinton because everyone's like, I want to go see him. This is great. But then we went into today's era, which is relationship centric. And this is all about connections. It's all about connections over content. And we've gone through this progression. Now we're in this new world. And this is why at Grit, we're seeing so many inbound leads all about how can you help connect our participants. And so I wanted to just delve into a little bit about why we think we are in this relationship centric world today. So Julius Solaris, one of the top influencers in our industry, talks about optimizing events for connections is one of the strongest drivers for attendance. So his whole thing is about connections over content, and he's seeing this more and more from the event organizers that he consults with. And then this is backed up by Freeman. So Freeman has done some research to say that networking has emerged as an urgent priority. In fact, 83% of event organizers say networking is the most important event element for attendees. So we're seeing that more and more and more. And what I thought was really interesting from this research was that, you know, event organizers have huge content teams working on just the content, but hardly any of them have like a networking team or a meeting team or a matchmaking team. And so there's this intent, but unless the business is aligned around that intent, it makes it very hard to actually deliver on the value proposition and deliver what the attendees actually want. So why is this happening, I hear you ask? I've got a couple of theories why, and these two theories come together to create this whole relationship-centric era that we're in. I believe that after COVID, people were used to recording all their sessions online because you had to do it during COVID. All the organizers recorded their sessions, put them on YouTube or wherever. And so what that means is we've trained an audience to go, do you know what? If I see there's a keynote happening there, if I just Google it, oh, they've already recorded that keynote at another event and it's online and it'll be online forever. So I can watch that keynote at 2x speed. I love to watch everything at 2x speed. I can watch it on the bus. I can watch it wherever and whenever I want, which means actually, do I need to go to that event that's got all these speakers and there's like 300 talks? And am I really going to get to 300 talks if I can just watch it anyway at my own time, my own speed? Probably not. So why am I going to this event? Well, actually, in-person events are all about the connections because you can get this content online now. And I think the other big driver out of the two is exhibitors. So as marketers, we're seeing lots of people are having their budgets squeezed, and you know the chief financial officer is saying, "Okay, you want to go to this event, you want to exhibit there. What do you get out of it?" And so really, what they want is leads. They want the meetings. They want the connections. And then people like Richard are coming along with his amazing shows, and they can go, well, I've been guaranteed these meetings, or these meetings are going to happen because I know it's hosted by it, or you know, this event has various ways for me to connect with people before the show, so I can just set up meetings in a meeting lounge. And so if you can present that to your boss or your chief financial officer, they're probably going to be more likely to unlock the money. So actually, if you go, well, I've got loads of meetings, I can go there, I can exhibit, I can generate some leads, I can get some return on investment, or as an attendee, I can go and have some meetings. That's going to be way more beneficial because at the end, you can show the meetings that you had, and hopefully that will result in business relationships and then some deals being done. So that's where we are, this relationship-centric era, and I want to kind of unpack that with our panelists. And one of our previous panelists, which I think you remember, was Jack Newey, and he said something really interesting, which is he had over 10 deals happen at Global Event Tech Summit, which is a record for us. So that was a hosted bar event, and they could actually show the result of this ROI. So not only did they deliver the meetings, but they followed up with the exhibitors and found that deals were actually getting done, which is gold dust if you're a marketer to go back to your boss and say, yeah, it resulted in real business value. So before I get into it with my panel, I'm going to be a bit cheeky and say there's a message from our sponsor. That's me. I've got another webinar coming up, 24th of April. So please do scan the QR code and then come along to the next webinar. That would be great. I'm going to flash this up again later. So if you can't get the QR code, not a problem. Okay, I'm going to come to our first panelist, and that is Ruben. Ruben, I want to ask you about connections over content. Why do you think this is a thing? Do you even think it is a thing? Are we moving into this era? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think we all agree on the fact that it's a very noisy world these days with all the content options you have on how you can consume the content. So uh, the relationship part of events is indeed the unique part, I think, of an in-person event. But I also believe that because we're also having a lot of online interactions these days, and the competition is so high online, especially when it comes to marketing, building a real relationship with somebody is only something you can do in person. So to really stand out, to really, work into a certain prospect or company is building a relationship, and therefore I think those in-person connections are getting more important. Just a certain strategy you can choose as a company to stand out as well. And what I've experienced myself is that uh, just consuming the content will also make it disappear more easily if you not put action to it. And when I was at good events where I could continue conversation with people about the content, having discussions about the content, connect with people after certain topics, it resonates better as well. And people come back when they remember, of course, what they have done with the content. And therefore, I also think the relationship coming after the content is very important.
Yeah, I love it. So it's kind of a combination of the two and how those merge together, and that creates even more
Mm.
value than just having one on its own. Brilliant. Richard, what about you? Connections over content. Do you subscribe to that, or do you think it's a mixture of both? Do you think it's going a bit too far? Tell me about your events and how they kind of fit in with yours.
Well, I think it's what we've always believed in. So when we started, we set about very definitely trying to focus on one thing, and rather than trying to spread ourselves thinly and create connection environments and content, we tried to focus entirely on connections, and always have done. And because really we thought that was the side that delivers most value. I think your two observations are absolutely spot on. I think it also depends on the industry you're on and the maturity of that particular market, how much requirement there is for content in terms of learning and development of the industry and the market that's going on. In our particular sector, in the travel industry, sure, there's always things happening and there's trends and there's things to talk about, but the market is pretty mature. And once you're at that stage, then getting the actors together to meet and do business is where you give people the best return on their investment for exhibitors and their best return on time for all. So for us, it was always about connections over content.
So tell me a bit about how you actually do it. Give me the user journey of, say, an attendee coming to one of your shows. Tell me what I would experience and why I should be coming to experience this kind of connection. Because you do some amazing things, don't you? Your shows.
Well, nice of you to say so. Thanks very much. To try and make it sound less amazing, I'll boil it down to what we're actually doing. We start off, for those who don't know, our events are typical trade shows. An event is about 3 days long. A small event will be 200 people. A big event will be 800 people. And we bring together equal numbers of buyers and suppliers. Absolutely critical to the quality of the event is the quality of people that we bring to the event in the first place. And then we do a lot of work to connect them in advance to ensure that everybody gets great meetings. So half the group are buyers, half the group are suppliers. And we guarantee, depending on the event, around 40 meetings between buyer and supplier. Those formal meetings take up a large part of the event, but it's also about the space around those events, which is perhaps the more sexy stuff that you're talking about, where we give people the opportunity to connect in many different ways. So this part is less pre-scheduled, but we run various different destination activities and networking events that allow the group to continue meeting, mingling, and developing deeper and better relationships.
Brilliant. So come on then, tell me about some of these experiences. 'Cause I've heard fire walking, I've heard about fun fairs, I've heard all sorts of things
We
that come out
have
of your
done
shows.
firewalking. We've just come back from Lake Louise. I came back yesterday, so forgive me if my eyelids are drooping with a bit of jet lag. We came back from Lake Louise, which is a wonderful event in Alberta, and we had delegates. We were snowshoeing, ice walking together, skiing. We've done hot air ballooning in Arizona, dragon boat racing along the Bosphorus, seaplanes over Lake Como, all manner of great things, all destination based, again, because our events are serving the travel industry. A big part of this, our buyers are travel buyers and are highly motivated by what can be done in the destination for their clients, whether it's their clients being event planners or their clients being consumers with leisure travel. So the activities we do are integrated with the destination, but they always provide great opportunities to further cement those connections.
And so you have a meeting area where they will have to meet beforehand. So do you have like your meetings in the morning and then the activities in the afternoon? How does that
Yeah,
work?
that would typically be it. Which the mornings would be pre-scheduled meetings. Many times, and you see lots of. In fact, I think Ruben will tell some interesting examples about how to do different meetings in quirky places. For us, we find that the best value comes from really being quite serious about the meetings. So our meetings are in a conference room, tabletop meetings. People move every 15 to 20 minutes onto their next meeting. The meetings are all set up in advance. They're all based. A lot of work has to go into this in the weeks and months before the event to find out data from everybody about their desires, who they want to meet with, and then scheduling the right meetings to try to optimize them. But the meetings are all quite the formal part, typically take place in the mornings. In the afternoons, there's more of the fun stuff that goes on.
And then do you have time limit for the meetings? Do you have someone in the room saying, time's up, next meeting, move, move,
Yeah,
move?
we do very much that. And again, that's sort of evolved over the time, but we run these with a clock, which everybody can see the clock. And there's we typically play some music during the last as a sort of 2-minute warning towards the meeting finishing. We then have a handover period. And we're very hands-on in the room as well. So we have a meeting management team who are helping people around to their next meeting, because that's the best way to ensure that the meetings work and stay on schedule.
Love it. That's so cool. I mean, Ruben, being hands-on at meetings, I've seen a video of you running around a room with a microphone, with a roulette wheel stuck on the floor. Tell me a bit about your AI-powered meeting roulette experience that you put on. How did that come about?
Yeah, so we are using Grip for quite some years now, and originally it was the free flow, solution that we were implementing with a lot of clients, but it wasn't working with all events. Not all events are suited that people are very proactive on scheduling their meetings up front. But we believe in the power of having pre-scheduled meetings, right? But for conferences or trade shows, it's not always working the way we want it. And we saw an opportunity with those pre-scheduled meetings. But on the other hand, if you do a 500 attendee show, you can't expect everybody to be part of that. So it should be an exclusive part of the event. That's the starting point for us. But speed dates is not very sexy, right? You need to make it more appealing for people to attend, to register upfront for this particular part. So we were thinking of a nice concept. How can we make it interesting for people to join this exclusive networking session. And then we came up with the network roulette concept, which is essentially just a session you sign up with. You use the platform to set your preferences, but the actual meeting location is a big roulette wheel on the ground, where in the app or on your badge, you see the actual numbers where your meetings take place. So this way it gets more like a concept, and people arrive at the area and they're either surprised because they only have the numbers on their badge printed, or they can find in the app who they are meeting with up front. And then there's somebody on site as well who's telling people, okay, let's go, the first round is starting, chances, opportunities for everybody. So you can really make a little bit of a show around it. And the funny part is everybody needs to dive into quite a small space to find each other. So you get a buzzy bit of a chaotic scenery, which also helps people to connect, make comfortable, being around a lot of people. So yeah, we've done that a few times now, and it's really giving good rates at those events. Yeah.
So what are people saying when or what do you see from the actual room itself, the dynamic? What vibe are you getting off some of the attendees when they take part in this?
Yeah. So um, it's buzzing. So it doesn't feel formal. It doesn't feel like we're doing a business meeting program. So people are standing. So people also more easy to talk. They can, decide on themselves how they want to stand with each other, find a quiet place, stay on the circle. So it's, everybody feels comfortable this way, how they want to have their meetings with each other. And you always have no-show too, which is always a problem, of course. But because the people that have no-shows are on the same circle, they can also very easily then get in touch with people who are also having a no-show. So it all solves itself a little bit, is what we have seen for this concept. Yeah.
I love
And there
it.
are different concepts that you can apply. So we're also thinking of a life path concept. Don't know if you know this game, this board game, where you throw the dice and then you go a certain path, and on each spot you have a dilemma, a life dilemma. That's a little bit how the game is played. But this is also how you can apply it, right? You look on your badge, you have a meeting at a certain number, and you end up on a certain dilemma, and the other person as well, and you can have a chat about the dilemma. So there are quite some ways how you can, break the ice, make it a more, a fun experience, while you still use the power of the technology up front, making sure people really have relevant connections. Yeah.
That sounds incredible. You didn't mention that in the briefing call, the life dilemma board game, real life situation. That sounds brilliant. I mean, yeah. What are some of the life dilemmas? Would it be like you get to the number and you're both there and it's like, should you divorce your wife? It's like, what? I didn't expect that.
Yeah, depends on the event, right? It could be a dilemma the industry has. It could be, you can customize it if you want. That is, I think, the nice twist with something like that.
That
Yeah.
sounds fantastic. And so, how's the technology linking with the physical space? So, these numbers on the roulette wheel, does that link to what would normally be like a table number coming out
Exactly.
of the Grip automated
Yeah.
meeting scheduler?
On the grip side, nothing is changed. They're just numbers. We make different locations for each number with black or red, for example, for the roulette. And then it's calculated. People just go to the figure on the ground, and the roulette tables are 2.5 meters in diameter, so it's quite easy to find each other on that space. Yeah.
Brilliant. And Richard, does this speak to you? Because what I'm hearing from you is you've got some really creative things going on, but then in the mornings you're inside a kind of corporate environment, sitting down having meetings. Are you thinking of mixing up your meetings a bit more after hearing what Ruben's?
Yeah, we are. I mean, I am not wanting to try to compete here, Ruben, but we did a session of meetings on paddle boards at one stage, and sounds great, but once you fall in, then all your papers get wet, and it's tough for people in the meetings. Yeah, I think. Listen, it's brilliant and really creative, and we do come up with different ways to try to do our meetings. I think where we're blessed, we've got groups of buyers and sellers who are coming to our events because they have a mutual interest in meeting with each other, and are there. Therefore, it's relatively, it's not easy, but it's possible for us to motivate them in advance to be able to do all the work to get the best sets of meetings set up in advance. I think that in a lot of markets, you don't get the same level of motivation between the delegates to do the meetings. You'll often have the sellers are highly motivated to meet the buyers, but the buyers are hard to track down and to get commitment from. And so in those scenarios, I can see that but by having a more fun and gimmicky way of running the meetings, it might help to gamify and get people involved. For us, I think there's, so far, we've not been able to find anything that beats the value that people have from efficiency and having a good environment in which they can sit down to have a proper business meeting. But as I say, all the work that we put in is done in advance in order to get people coming to the event who are motivated to meet each other and have the right schedules of meetings, first of all.
Yeah, tell me a bit about that. So, what data do you use to understand how you do those matches? You know, it's not just preferences, is it? There's kind of more to it than that.
Yeah, so there's and our ability to create the best matches is entirely derived from the quality of the data that we manage to get from them in advance. So it'll be a lot of data about a typical event for us will be event planners meeting with hotels, destinations, DMCs, and venues. So it will be the data about the requirements of the event planners, the type of events they run, the budgets they run, the destinations they look for, and then detail from the venues about the size of the property, what makes them special, their USPs, and so on. And then we'll run that stuff together to start making recommendations, but a lot of it is then engagement with all of those delegates in advance to have them submitting lists of preferences, and that's what we've always worked with. So we'll ensure that everybody coming to our event has told us who they want to meet with, also who they don't want to meet with, and to rank people in order. And the more of that information that we get in, the more then feeds in through the GRIP algorithms in order to create the optimum sets of meetings.
And Ruben, you know, you're from the technology background. What sort of data are your clients pulling in to make sure the right matches are made? Is it similar with Richard, or are there other kind of interesting bits of data being used at your end?
Depends, of course, on the type of event, but we normally recommend always to match based on mutual interest, let's say. And this could be a business mutual interest, of course, but it should be a business. But we also see more and more that there are personal interests being added to it, which makes it's also more fun to see how you are connected. So hobbies, for example, is something we've seen more and more. You know, if you have a match on the hobby you're having, it could be a reason to have a chat, and from there see on, you know, what you can do for each other. But yeah, like Richard said, we apply the same type of matching. Offering and demand relationships are of course the most strongest, but that's not for all events applied. You don't always have an investor and a startup, or, you know, a supplier and a buyer that are both, you know, eager to meet. So you need to be sometimes more creative, especially with the more, you know, the conferences where it's more about, you know, people in the same industry who are looking for partnerships, or, you know, want to connect based on the challenges that they both have. Yeah, it's harder, I think, in those cases to connect people. So you can be creative, I think, in those cases.
Yeah, I really love the kind of thinking about creative solutions to matching people and matching them through their hobbies. Because I mean, I've met some of my best friends through cycling. Richard, you put on a cycling event, didn't you, to connect people?
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's interesting hearing Ruben saying that, and Hugh, you would have loved it. Tour de Mice. we ran for two or three editions. Unfortunately, too many people kept falling off their bikes and needed to be taken to hospital to make the meetings right. Sorry, it's a bit of a joke. Wasn't too many, but yeah, we did exactly that. So we tried within our industry to bring people together around things that they loved personally. So connecting a group and creating a community of cyclists who happen to be in the travel industry to come together. And so we ran an event where we would meet in the morning and then cycle 80k in the afternoon to the next venue and repeat the next day. And so it was a tour, and fantastically popular. We did a similar thing with golf. We did a similar thing with skiing as well. So events that pull people together around their personal hobbies, as Ruben says, but within the industry. And they were great.
Well, there you go. There's a takeaway for everyone. Just try and think about how you can connect your participants over their personal hobbies, ones that are less dangerous. Golf sounds kind of all right, doesn't it? I think skiing and cycling, you could have a few.
No one
injuries.
hurt themselves playing golf.
Fantastic. Maybe on the 19th hole they hurt themselves. So that's fascinating. I just want to talk now about how those connections have actually delivered something. How do you know they've become valuable? So you're all doing these brilliant connections, creative ways of getting people together. What happens next? I mean, how do you know that people in the room are actually connecting and it's useful? And coming back to that point I made earlier about ROI, Ruben, what are you seeing from your clients? How are they demonstrating ROI of connections?
Yeah, we of course have the meeting feedback that we can ask, but we see not always the right response on that. So that's still a hard one, I would say. We are looking at maybe having more on the longer term coming back to people about what results did you get from the meetings, because people also not always know it directly after the event. Business opportunities have certain lead times as well, of course. And otherwise, having the evaluation of the event always include with the NPS, how would you rate the meetings that we facilitated for you? That's, I think, very, very important to include always.
And what about you, Richard? How do you evaluate what's good?
Yeah, same sort of things, really. I mean, it's a lot about the surveys that we do afterwards, asking people how they found their individual meetings as well as the overall meetings, NPS scores. We monitor and we benchmark against ourselves and against the industry all the time. One thing that we do that's interesting. I mean, we ask, we get ratings from every meeting. So we end up with a list of a ranking order of list of all the exhibitors and all the buyers that's created by how the other side felt about them. And so we run this we gamify it. So we have a leaderboard to, at the end of the event, award the top exhibitors and the top buyers, the most popular ones. But of course, it also gives us rankings right the way through the whole group, so that we can see the ones who are low down and were less popular, and then consider their re-invitation for future events.
So you're giving out physical award? You actually, or is it just
Yeah.
oh right,
Yeah,
wow.
we give out physical awards on the last night. We have an award ceremony, and people can get very excited about it. They'll get very competitive as the event goes on, where we display a leaderboard. It's always available through the Grip app. You see where your position is, and on the last night we have an awards ceremony and give out physical awards to the winners. People, let me tell you, we've seen people get promotions and pay rises from winning the best salesperson award. Once they go back to their hotel and show that, it does very well. Comes up on their CVs.
That's fantastic. And so I guess that's also a way of ensuring that people actually complete surveys and fill in their feedback because you're doing it at the end of the event. So they've got to do it while they're there, which is probably an easier way to get people to complete forms and things.
Yeah, it's actually separate. We're getting them to do that during the event. We then run a post-event survey, and we typically get about a 60 to 70% response on our post-event survey, which is pretty good and high enough to give us statistically relevant results.
That's great. And I guess, Ruben, the other part of this is you kind of got to know why your exhibitors or even attendees are there in the first place. Are they there for brand awareness? Are they at your event for lead generation? And so by knowing in advance what their purpose of being at the event is for, that kind of results in the right outcome for them, but it's all kind of personalized, it seems.
True, the goals are different per partner, you could say, especially at a conference. There could be there are also different packages. You see more and more packages that are more focused on thought leadership or more focused on lead generation. Yeah, true. So it should be personal evaluation that you're doing.
And then just coming back to you, Richard, I just want to talk about your history with worldwide events because I read in an article with you that you said pre-scheduled meetings were one of the biggest or the single biggest momentous strategy that you've implemented 20 years ago. I'd love you to talk us a bit through your kind of thought process. Where were you before 20 years ago, and then why did you go into this world, and why was it such a big shift? Was it light and day when you started introducing these pre-scheduled meetings?
Yeah, it kind of was. I mean, I think we started at a time. It's hard for all you youngsters, Hugh and Ruben and everybody else, to even remember such a time. You were at school, but back 20 years ago, all that existed, certainly in our industry, in the travel industry, was big exhibitions, and people turned up to the big exhibitions, had a stand, and would wait to see who would come round to see them, and it would typically be not very many people. And so we came up and had these events that we really wanted to focus on meetings. So from the beginning, we were coming up with ways of giving people schedules of meetings and timed meetings. But we were doing it just at our first events. We were working these all out on paper ourselves and then ringing a bell when it was time to turn over and move to your next meeting. And a lot of it was just you move from table 1 to table 2 to table 3 and to go through it that way. I think by maybe our second or third year, 2006 or 7, we were seeing the need to have a program that helped us to create preferences in advance. We were already trying to do it. Nothing existed in the market. No software companies were doing anything like it. So we created our own appointment making software that was based on preferences that people were putting in and had its own algorithms to optimize the sets of meetings, which we're proud to say, I don't think it's a secret, is now part of the Grip platform, and it's taken on to new levels. So we were in that from the beginning. But yeah, when we did that around 2006, 2007, that was absolutely groundbreaking and unlocked new levels of value for all of our participants. But yeah, it was at a time that nobody was used to going to events and having timed meetings and having schedules. So it was really hard. You'd give people diaries of meetings and then find that by meeting 2, they'd wandered off outside to have a coffee, smoke a cigarette, sit by the pool, or do anything else. And so we had a period where we were really needing certainly to almost train our market that no, you turn up to an event and here's your schedule of meetings and you need to perform these meetings. I think that's almost a given now, certainly in our industry. In a lot of markets, that's still one of the main challenges that people have. I'm sure some of the viewers here will be thinking about how hard it is for them to get their delegates to actually adhere to schedules of meetings. And the answer is not easy, but it can be done, although it might take you 20 years.
I love it. Yeah, training your attendees. That's fantastic advice. I'd like to get into that a little bit, but first of all, I'd like to say thank you very much. 2006, I was on my second marketing job, not at school. So yeah, I'm 44. I mean, I will send your comment to my plastic surgeon, Richard. So thank you. Yeah, it's not having kids. That's why I'm so fresh faced and cycling a lot. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So I've got a really good question which ties into what you're saying, Richard, from Louise. She says, how do you delight, I love that word. How do you delight the vendor and the buyer? So the buyer and supplier. What are you actually doing to make them super happy?
Is that to me or Ruben?
To you, Richard, first.
Yeah, excellent question, Louise. How do you delight them? Again, look, I'm going back to I don't take this for granted. I think we're blessed to be in a market in the travel industry where buyers and suppliers are highly motivated to meet with each other. So how do we delight them? We delight them by giving them giving them the best return on their time and the best return on their investment that they get from really good sets of relevant meetings. There's more to it than that. For us, for the exhibitor side, we're delighting them by giving them a great return on investment. On the buyer side, coming to our events to meet the exhibitors they're meeting with is highly motivational, but it's also really important for them to come to our events because they are experiencing the destinations and the experiences that their clients might want to use. And so they get a lot out of it that way. So we delight them that way in terms of fulfilling their business needs, but making the event fun, enjoyable, and about a human-to-human connection, which isn't just about the meeting, but is a relaxed environment in which they will network, they'll paraglide with each other, they'll do great experiences, and then they'll socialize and party with them in the evening. And so that rounded experience is where some of the delight comes from.
And I've got questions coming in thick and fast. I've got one from Chris who's saying, what's the AV setup, the technology you need? This is probably one for you, Richard, where you have this like leaderboard displayed at the event and all this other stuff. I mean, I've on your website, I have to say it's really good because you can see videos of your shows. And there's a massive clock on the wall on some of them.
Yeah.
What other AV technology things do you use?
So we run our leaderboard through Grip. That was something when we got together and brought our technologies together. Tim, the founder of Grip, will remember that the leaderboard for us was a big part of it, and Grip now runs that for us, which is great. From an AV perspective, yeah, we've got screens around in the meeting room displaying various bits of information, but a lot of it is through the app, which we're often complimented on. So I think Grip do a fantastic job on that. Does that
20 quid? 20 quid is in the post. Yeah, it does. Fantastic. Yeah, exactly. Okay. 49. Ruben, over to you. I've got a question for you. Another one that's come in. What goes wrong and how do you solve for this? So what goes wrong most often and how do you avoid these issues? Because I heard you talked about no-shows. For me, that feels like it's really gone wrong. What about you, Ruben? What goes wrong at your end on these sorts of things?
Yeah, no shows we have, of course. And one of the mistakes we have made and still is happening is opening up with a networking session because you don't know yet who's not coming to the event. So you don't also have the opportunity to regenerate some of the open slots that have been created because of that. So we always try to have this speed date session somewhere, after the first sessions, after the check-in, because that's, I think, one of the most annoying things people can experience is yes, standing alone there, waiting for your meeting to arrive. Yeah.
And what about you, Richard? give me some examples. What's gone wrong at your events? There must have been things that have gone wrong.
Oh,
How did you avoid them?
the first ever event we did, it was in London, and we had I think we had 50 hoteliers who were there, turned up waiting for their meetings, and we opened the doors and no buyers walked in. And we were running an event. It seemed obvious to us at the time. Run an event for London UK buyers. You hold it in London. The next year we did one for German buyers in Frankfurt, French buyers in Paris, Benelux buyers in Amsterdam, and so it seemed the obvious thing to do. A game changer for us in terms of controlling that no-show rate was putting buyers on planes and taking them to other destinations. And I think the commitment that we found we then got from the buyers, once a plane ticket has been bought, we were buying the ticket for them. But once that ticket was bought, it then goes into the diary with a different in ink. It gets inked in. You might get somebody who cancels, but it will be for a real emergency then, not just because they've got a busy day at work. So that was incredibly tough for us. It was a 2-day event, that first one. The first day event was hopeless. We had our entire office, and we had other businesses at the time, everybody through accounts and everything through the organization, all calling up our database of buyers and bribing them to come to the second day with Harrods vouchers. Luckily they did. They turned up and we were off and running, and it worked from then on. But yeah, getting that commitment to control no-show rates, we managed to, we've got ourselves in a position now where that works really, really well. And so our delivery of meetings, we deliver over 98% of the meetings that are scheduled. So a no-show rate is not really an issue for us now, but that's not by chance. That's because that's what we've worked really, really hard on.
So you buy the flights and you just say, look, this is the flight you're going to be on, or is there some backwards and forwards saying?
Yeah, there'll be a process that goes through, and a lot of buyers will self-book now, but that's sort of been the process. Other things that go wrong, one of the things that's a bit of a challenge for us, because we rotate our events to different destinations and countries all the time. And so we're working with fresh sets of suppliers. And so there can be a difficulty now and again with quality control of certain things. But the core part of it, when we've got good people attending our events, we are real experts at putting the meetings together. And that all works pretty well.
And
so stuff that goes wrong is generally out of our control about travel, getting to places.
Oh God, yeah. Imagine if it was Heathrow and you had an event when that kicked off.
Yeah,
Blimey.
Heathrow was one.
Another one for you, Richard. Another one from Louise, who's got some great questions. How do you scale it fast, and what price do you charge for a B2B one-to-one? Like, are you charging per meeting? Are you charging for a block of meetings?
Yeah, so we are charging. We charge. It effectively does come down to a price per meeting, Louise. We charge attendance for a supplier who will come to the event, and part of the promise for them is that they're going to get 40 meetings. How much you charge, I think, would change from industry to industry, but rather than displaying all. Divulging all the secrets here. If Louise wants to contact me, I'd give her more details on exactly how that works. But yeah, it would come down. So no, we don't charge per meeting, but it can be worked out to a cost per meeting.
She also asked, who is the gold standard in niche B2B meetings? I'm like, well, that's you, Richard. So tick the box there. So definitely talk to Richard, Louise. Ruben, one from Steve. He says, how do you encourage attendees to respond to meetings? And what's the best practice for kind of making sure they just connect? They kind of not got these meetings in their app that's just sitting there and not being acted upon. They're kind of meeting requests, if you like, that aren't being delivered. So this is probably more of a free flow participant arranged. You've got one participant asking for a meeting from another one via the app. and they're just left hanging. How do you solve for that to make sure these meetings actually happen?
So it's the way how you configure the platform as well. So when it's really about the networking, make sure that those type of blocks or buttons are on top on the home screen, so they really, stand out. There are a lot of things you can include in the event app, and we see more and more that when you keep it simple and focus on the most important parts, people also don't, get lost in what to do in the event app. So we really try to make sure the meeting features, like who's interested in you, your meeting request, it's all on top when you log into the app. So people really, they can't miss it out. And of course, use all the automated emails that you can use these days in Grip. There are recently, of course, some enhancement on that part where you can, remind people when they have a lot of outstanding meetings. This is what we use for every event, actually. I think email is the best way to get people into the event app if they haven't done that yet. Yeah, so
Great.
and yeah, it's still you can't force people, so it's still hard on that end.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of kind of white glove stuff going on in the background sometimes at some of these events where, people are actually picking up the phone, organizers and their
Absolutely.
suppliers are picking up the phone to say, oh, you've got a load of, maybe it's a VIP exhibitor. You've got a lot of meeting requests you haven't responded to here. Should we just go through it and start doing them now live on the phone? I see you nodding away there, Richard. It seems like brute forcing is the way forward sometimes.
Yeah, I think in terms of tips for people who are trying to create more meetings at their events, I think that's absolutely right. We have an entire team who are dedicated to a user journey and all sorts of communication and newcomer webinars and trainings that go in how to make the best appointments, and a whole team who are gauging and have a timeline where they know the times that, how many preferences we need and data gathered by certain periods in the run up to an event. So we have a huge human element to that. And it's, don't underestimate the importance of that. Another little tip, I was going back to something somebody said about things that go wrong. If you have too many sort of scheduling conflicts going on at the event, I think that can be a real difficulty in terms of getting people to accept meetings. We've made a mistake we made at an event where we had too many options going on at the same time, and so we had a lot of people who were waiting for free flow meetings to confirm when those delegates were wanting to do something else. And so for us, trying to keep things focused into blocks of time so that when it's time to meet, it's time to meet, helps with attendance and getting people to respond in a timely manner.
Yeah, integrated in the program that people are aware of when one-to-one meetings can take place, especially when it's free flow. And breaks also need to be breaks, right? People also need to relax, do nothing, go to the toilet, eat something. What we see a lot as well is that they have a conference program with the normal breaks, and they expect people to have those meetings during the breaks. That's
Yeah,
not what will happen.
yeah.
No.
Another point on that, if I can expand on it, Hugh, for a second, I think increasingly as an event organizer, you have to accept that people are also needing to run their businesses and run their lives. And so you have to give them space during the event. And you have to make some things optional. If for us, we want the meetings to work really well. So we limit the amount of time that they're spending in the obligatory parts of the event. Outside of that, you can dip in and be involved in whatever you want to be involved in. But if you've got a piece of business which is coming up and you've got to get on with work, then that's fine. You don't have to feel that you're letting us down on that side. So I think it's really important to have that space in the event so that people can carry on living their lives and running their businesses.
Yeah, especially today with everyone's always connected with Slack and everything and else instant messaging. They've got their laptops, their iPads, their phones. It's kind of a given, isn't it? Right, we've got one last question, then we're going to wrap it up. This is from Kerry. She says, "Is it mandatory for attendees to download your app? And if not, how do you encourage attendees to download and engage on the app? As some attendees it might still be resistant to some of this technology or might feel it's too much effort." So I've got a quick answer for Kerry there, and I'm sure you guys both have got answers. But we've just uploaded yesterday a new blog, published a new blog at Grip, all about how do you promote your event app to your participants. So loads of great ideas in there, and it also includes Abby Cannon's 54 top tips for promoting your event app. So there's loads of stuff in there. Things like put your event badge inside the app, so when you have to scan it to get your actual registration badge, QR codes all around the venue, all that sort of stuff. Putting the value inside the app, so they need the app. But Richard, tell me a bit about how the app works and why people need it at your shows.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the last time we had a delegate who didn't download the app. And I think when we were first introducing the app, there'd be more resistance, and people are still wandering about with pieces of paper with their meetings written on. Now that would only happen if something's gone wrong and somebody's lost a phone or it's broken, and we'd work another way. Otherwise, we don't find there's any resistance to it. But it really is vital for them to be able to see all the people that they're going to meet with, to see where their meetings are, to be directed. So we don't find there's any resistance to it now.
So you've got the value inside the app. They have to have the app to see where their meetings are. Great.
Yeah.
Ruben, quick 30 seconds from you.
Yeah, so the ticket is very important, but we also give the advice to make the app exclusive when it comes to certain content of things that they can find only in the app. For example, side events. If there are a lot of side events that you need to register for, put them in the app. That only via the app you can register for those side events. So put something in the app that people really only can find via downloading. That's working also very well.
Fantastic. Right, I'm going to do our blatant promotion again for our next webinar. Please do scan the QR code. Come along. It's going to be a big one. We've got Laura Pace from Yellowfish, sorry, and Yellowfish is a big experiential agency working with a lot of B2B brands. It's all about the ultimate guide to event engagement. So she's going to be talking a bit about how she engages her participants at the events that she runs for her clients. And then Lizzie Evans as well is our chief product officer. She's going to be there talking about how she talks to hundreds of event organizers every month to help boost their engagement. So she's got some great ideas too. Right, before we go, Ruben, how can people connect with you? How can they have a chat to you and ask you more questions?
LinkedIn, via our website, various ways. Yeah.
Lovely. Check out Ruben, won't pronounce his surname, at Lively. Ruben Lively. Type that into Google, it'll be your best friend. And Richard, how can people come and ask you about your events and what you're up to?
Same thing via LinkedIn. Through the website and find my email address. I'm very happy to answer any questions or get into conversations where I can help people.
Lovely. Thank you very much, chaps. You've been brilliant guests. We've talked a lot about connections over content. I'm going to go and connect with a random people in the street right now because that's how much I believe in this mission. But yeah, thanks for your time. Come to our next webinar, everyone. And yeah, have a great rest of the week. Thanks, everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, you.